Welcome, race fans, to this week's edition of the Rubbin' is Racing Daily Fantasy NASCAR Show, brought to you by FantasyDonks.com, your one-stop shop for all you need to know to start playing daily fantasy sports. I'm Sean Big Papa Williams, and unfortunately, Jamie the Learjet Lear isn't with us this week. He's got a family issue that he's dealing with, but he did all the work. I did all the work for you, and as long as you can stomach me alone giving you the picks this week, I will have all the plays for you that we like from Bristol under the lights for the Irwin Tools night race, the 500. It's hard to pass here on this track, as we all know. It's a small track, short turns just over a half mile in length. The turns vary in banking from 24 to 28 degrees, and it's a concrete track that's only 40 feet wide, which means that there's not a lot of room to pass, even in the turns. So traditionally, as I said before, the cars that are up front stay up front, and the only issues here are usually lapped cars for the cars that are out front. The weather is supposed to be nice, 86 degrees, and as usual southern weather, there's about a 20% chance of rain. Even if it does pop up, the rain should move on fairly quickly. I don't look for it to be a factor in the race this week. With that said, even though Lear's not here, we'll get to the who's burning rubber for the Irwin Tools night race at Bristol, and Lear's first pick for you guys this week is Matt Kenseth at 10,400. Lear tells us that Kenseth has been hot of late, and he looks for him to continue his streak this past race at Bristol, his current streak. Sorry, the past race at Bristol, excuse me guys, sorry about that. For the Food City 500, he started first and finished first, going 1-1, leading 47 laps. His past 4 starts at Bristol, he has started 5th, 3rd, 16th, and 1st, with a finishing order of 1st, 13th, 3rd, and 1st. Those are great numbers on this track. He has won at Bristol 4 times in his career, with 2 of those happening in the past 2 years. He is qualified at the 13th position. He's expensive at the cost of $10,400, being the second highest driver in the form of cost. He will be worth the salary at this week. I'm all over him as well. I love this pick for Lear. JGR is qualified cars. 1, 2, and 3 with Kenseth in 13th. The motor and the car setup we know are great. He will have the fastest laps. He should have laps led, and should have the best place differential of all the elite drivers, as he's probably the only one that can move up a significant amount from the 13th to top 4. Lear tells us that he wants to basically guarantee you that he will finish in the top 5 this week, if not win, and that is Lear's pick, as he has led 508 laps so far. He's just a stud at Bristol, Lear wanted me to tell you. So that's Lear's first pick for the Burning Rubber segment. My first pick for the Burning Rubber segment is not going to be too much of a stretch for you, with a stretch from Lear's theory here, and my pick is Denny Hamlin. He's 9,200 this week on DraftKings. He qualified first. It's this simple, guys. These JGR cars are for real. They are dialed in. They look amazing on this track. They know Bristol, and they have a great history here. As I said earlier, they qualified 1, 2, and 13. Hamlin here has a win here. He also has 4 top 5s, all while leading 172 laps since 2013 on this track. I would look for Hamlin and all the other JGR cars to get it done this week. He won this race in 2012, and JGR has 4 of the last 6 wins on this track. Oh yeah, also a nice side note, he set the track record while qualifying this week. Denny Hamlin and all the JGR cars are just dialed in, and you're going to see that from our recommendations. We are all over the JGR cars this week. Which brings us to Lear's second Burning Rubber pick, and that is Carl Edwards. Surprise, surprise, another JGR driver at 9,500. He's been qualifying really high in the last month, regardless of the track type. Edwards seems to be dominant, at least in qualifying. He and his crew chief, Darian Grubb, have been really working together, and I look for that trend to continue. This week he's qualified 3rd, and at a cost of 9,500, you can't go wrong, in my opinion. And in his last 4 races at Bristol, he started 3rd, 12th, 3rd, and 3rd, and has finished 39th, 1st, 7th, and 24th. So there's some mixed results out there, but the lower finishes were mostly due to unforeseen circumstances. And in the last 5 races here, Carl Edwards has led 283 laps, which puts him 3rd highest among the active drivers, behind Kenseth and Harvick, with Harvick at 294 laps led. This race, you really need to target guys up front, as Lear wants you to remember here. And with renewed confidence and running with JGR and Toyota, look for him to take this one home. I love Edwards. I love all the JGR plays this week. As you're going to see a little bit later, I am all in on JGR this week. I'm going with the JGR stack in my lineup, in the lug nut lineup block. And that brings me right along to my second pick for the Who's Burning Rubber, and that's Kyle Busch. Look, he's going to taste the rainbow this week, driving the Skittles car. He's going to have a top 4 finish. I'm convinced, as long as we don't have some crazy unforeseen circumstance. He is pricey. He's $10,300, but I just don't think when I'm putting together lineups, I can risk rolling out a lineup without Kyle Busch in it. I mean, he has 5 wins here, 7 top 5s at Bristol. He's led 137 laps at this track since 2013. Plus, he's on a heater of epic proportions. I mean, what we are seeing him do dominance-wise on the NASCAR circuit in the last few weeks is unheard of. I mean, in previous times, it's been 2 guys dominating a track for a while together. He's basically been doing it by himself. And had he not ran and had we not had some other issues, he'd have another win on the board. So I just love Kyle Busch this week. He qualified 2nd behind his teammates, behind his teammate Hamlin, and right in front of his other teammate and Carl Edwards. I just love the JGR cars this week. I think it's a great place for you to go. There's a stud-dud approach that I'll talk about here in a little bit. That's where my lineup, that's where I'm putting my efforts this week. All right. Now that we got the Who's Burning Rubber, and I know I'm moving probably a little bit fast, and without Lear here, it's kind of hard to argue when I'm presenting Lear's arguments as well. So hopefully you'll forgive me, and we'll get back to the normal point counterpoint next week, and I'll do my best if I disagree with some of Lear's picks. But when he sent me these picks, I was in total agreement with how he was thinking. And it seems to me like Bristol's breaking down fairly easy for me to see this week. And I haven't had that confidence with a lot of tracks that I seem to have this week, which probably means you should not listen to any of my picks. No, I'm just joking. There's good reasoning and good analysis. And if these picks don't hit this week, it'll solely be because something goes wrong that's unforeseen. But because we're using the good driver statistics and to come to our conclusions. And I think that more times than not, that will always help you cash out in daily fantasy. And that's what our goal is here, is to educate you as players. And with that said, it's time for us to move to the Going to the Garage segment. And Lear's pick for the Going to the Garage this week is Kurt Busch. Lear wants me to tell you that for a brief time this year, Kurt was a hot driver on the Sprint Cup Series. As of late, Kurt has been a disappointment, and yet his costs keep staying high towards the top of the salary cap due to his name and the brief success he had earlier. Over his last 5 races at Bristol, his average starting position is 10th, with running position being 14th, and an average finishing position of 18th. The last 4 races, he has started 2nd, 13th, and 7th, with finishes in the order of 31st, 35, 5th, and 15th. So on a whole, he's more likely to lose you points this week and not be the guy that he needs. His cost is $10,300, and so he's the third most expensive driver this week, and he is qualified 11th. Lear tells you that he looks for him to finish in the back in the pack at least 15th or higher and not be worth paying off that price tag. Even if he finishes with positive points, most likely Lear wants me to tell you is that it's not enough to make up for his price tag, and he will be avoiding Kurt Busch this week. I completely agree with him on this. I would much rather buy Kyle. I would much rather buy Carl Edwards, any of the JGR cars that are better priced. I mean, I can get Edwards at 95. I can get Kyle Busch at 10.3 at the same price as Kurt. I can get Denny Hamlin at 9.2, and I can get Kenseth for $100 more. I would just much rather be on the JGR cars this week than Kurt Busch. I think it's an easy fade. I completely agree with Lear here. my pick for who's going to the garage this week is Joey Logano. Look, Joey qualified 5th, and most people are probably going to tell me I'm out of my mind to make this play, but he is $10,000. And if you've watched previous shows, you know that I don't like certain drivers that I think are overvalued. I don't think that the Fords had the ability to run the fastest laps. I don't think that the Fords had the ability to run in the lead. With that said, that means his point potential is limited essentially to 5th, or if he falls back in the pack, he can lose you more points. I think he's going to end up falling back. I think this is going to be one of those races where Logano overqualifies and falls back. I know he has a decent history on this track, but my gut says this is a week where Logano is going to cost you. I think a lot of people are going to be on him because I don't think a lot of people are going to have enough guts to just super spin on the JGR teams, and they're going to try to save money. Logano is one of those guys where you're not getting the top tier. You're $300 away from the top tier drivers. And I think that that's going to be a swerve for a lot of people, and I'm just avoiding it. I just don't think he's going to produce a dollar per point value that you're going to be happy with. So I think you're best off to fade. All right, guys. I know I'm rolling through things, so some of you may like it. It's going to be a shorter video than normal this week. But we get to my favorite segment. We are the only site in the industry, and even though Lear's not here, I still have Lear's lineup for the 5K lug nut, and I'll be going over his lineup and my lineup, so you can enter the 5K lug nut with us. We would encourage you to do so using the links from fantasydonks.com. That's how we're able to do these shows. Support fantasydonks.com by being a referral to DraftKings for NASCAR. Helps us out and lets us bring this show and this information to you. Remember to like, share, favorite us on Facebook and on YouTube and on Twitter. And with that said, let's get to Lear's 5K lug nut lineup. The first driver he has, which should be no surprise to anyone, is Carl Edwards at the $9,500 price tag. His second is also a second recommendation, which is Matt Kenseth at the $10,400 price tag. He then goes with Jamie McMurray at $7,900. His argument here is that Jamie McMurray qualified 21st, and he's a great small track driver. He has led 158 laps over the last 5 years at Bristol, and his average start over the past 4 races is 16.25, with an average finish of 19.75. which includes a wreck where he started 18th and finished 38th. So in other words, when Lear's doing the math, he's saying Jamie Mack is better on a whole to finish a favorite to finish higher than the 21st position he qualified in. He loves him some J-Mac this week at his price point and his potential, and at $7,900, he's a great value play in my opinion. Lear's fourth driver on his lineup this week is Jeff Gordon at $8,400. He would be here stealing my thunder from me. I'm actually not on Jeff Gordon this week, but his argument's a fairly good one. He says, it's time Jeff Gordon takes one home. Well, as you know, I've been making that argument for weeks now, and it has not panned out for me. Hopefully it can pan out for Lear, as long as it's not costing me money in the long run. But he says that Gordon had a strong finish here earlier in the season. He started 23rd and finished 3rd. It was a great point differential for Jeff Gordon that week. And great to have him own. Over his last 4 races, his average start is 15.75 with an average finish of 8.25. This shows that he is gaining you points as a fantasy player on a weekly basis. That's an important factor. And he has 2 starts of 32nd and 23rd with a finish order of 7th and 3rd. He has led 83 laps in the last 5 races here, so he won't lead many starting 24th, but he has a chance, according to Lear, to run some of the fastest laps. But Lear also loves his place differential, and that's where he's banking on points for Jeff Gordon this week. He says, barring a wreck or brakes or lug nuts, all problems that have hurt my lineups when I've rostered Jeff Gordon. Thanks for that nice jab, Lear. He says, you get the point. Gordon will have a top 10 finish, according to him, with a decent shot at a top 5. And I'll say this much. If he can pull off a top 5 finish, even a top 10, at that $8,400 price tag, it's somebody you're going to want to be on this week. And if Lear's read is true, Jeff Gordon might be a dynamite play for you this week. I actually really like that, even though I'm not personally on Jeff Gordon this week. All right, Lear's 5th driver this week is Sam Hornish Jr. at $6,100. Hornish is a good short track racer at a great value price this week. He qualified 26th. In this past race, the Food City 500, he started 39th and finished 19th, gaining 20 positions in pass differential. Most likely just a good value play, according to Lear, but is a risk, and he does have some history of finishing around where he started or worse. This is Lear's gamble play, and the way he set up his lineup, he had to fish down for a gamble play, so he's rolling the dice on Sam Hornish Jr. He says he hopes it pays off for him and hopes it pays off for you as well. I wish you guys the same luck. I'm not on Sam Hornish Jr. I love where your heart's at, Lear. I totally understand it. It makes sense to me, especially when I see how this lineup is built. And his sixth and final driver on his lineup this week is Paul Menard, and he carries with him a $7,500 price tag. Paul's not had the best season, according to Lear, but he does surprise us every now and then. And this week, he's bringing the thunder, according to Lear. He starts 29th, so he'll be back in the traffic. Over his last 4 races, he started 21st, 28th, 17th, and 9th, with finishes in the order of 6th, 21st, 9th, and 11th. That is an average start of 18.75 with an average finish of 11.75. That's huge place differential, especially at that that point range. He says the guy's starting the Irwin Tools night race at the 29th position. He wants you to stick him in your lineups, and you'll be happy at the end of Saturday night. I actually have no problem with the Paul Menard play. It actually makes sense. As Lear said, he's got a great record of finishing higher than he starts. That's one of those drivers you want. I'm going with a different approach this week. I'm going very risky, very grab your sack and kind of go with it. As I alluded to earlier, I went JGR and duds. I went studs and duds, anchored by the JGR 4, and that's how I'm rolling in my lineup, my lug nut lineup, and I'm not ashamed, and I'm comfortable. And if these guys do what they're supposed to, we almost had a huge payday 2 weeks ago till 2 of them ran out of gas on the last lap. I think this is the week where we're going to get a huge payday. I've got Kyle Busch, Kenseth, Hamlin, and Edwards. And that's my starting 4. We've all heard the prices already a couple of times. I'm not going to rehash that for you. My next pick to go with him is J.J. Yeley. He is $5,200, and that is really the only argument I need for him for this approach. If he does anything at all other than go negative, and my 4 studs from JGR do what they're supposed to, I'll be fine. But I think I have a potential to get like 20, 35 points out of J.J. Yeley. The reason why is he qualified 38th. We're going to see several cars get caught up in wrecks. As long as he can stay clean, he's just naturally going to gain in pass differential from the back of the pack. And if that's the case, we're going to squeak out those awesome points from him. And if my top cars do what they should, I'm confident that this lineup will be in the thick of it in the GPPs this week. And just in case you wanted another reason to love this guy this week at his $5,200 price tag, he's driving the Voodoo Barbecue car. That's right. I have no idea what Voodoo Barbecue is. And being from Kansas City, I am very skeptical of barbecue sauces that don't originate here. However, I love that name and it sounds awesome, so I have no problem rolling J.J. Yeley on my team. The last pick to round out my team is Landon Cassill. It's basically the same reason above. He qualified 39th, right behind him. Look, I'm conceding what I'm going for this week is an extremely risky approach. It's not something I'd recommend to every player out there. I've done the work. I've seen what the point, and I broke down the math. And the math says that if my top 4 drivers do what they're supposed to, especially with Kenseth at 13th, moving up the pack and getting past differential there, and the other guys can lead laps and be the fastest cars. If those 4 cars, like I think, will do that consistently through this race and stay out front, this strategy should pay off. Now, is it a safe strategy? No. If something goes wrong, will this definitely be out of the cash instantly? Absolutely. If anything goes wrong with those JGR cars, or they get tangled up with each other, or have problems passing lap traffic, this lineup's going to be a dud. But that's okay, because the way I built this lineup is I'm going for all the cash, and I'm doing it by rolling all the JGR cars. I'm sure Lear would tell you that he thinks I'm probably a little crazy. I like his team, his lineup that he gave you guys this week is a more well-rounded lineup. He went after a lot of guys this week where he thought he was going to get past the differential. This is where Lear and I fundamentally disagree in philosophy this week, and I really wish he was here so we could have a little counterpoint. But he thinks that even though on the short track there are several guys that can gain a lot of positions, my read on this short track and on the short track racing is that who is in front tends to stay up front, aside from a couple of random cars. Now, my theory is I don't want to guess on those couple random cars that are going to make the big moves. So what I'm doing is taking the one guy that's a little bit back and saying that because he's one of the 3 cars that are 1, 2, 3, like he's one of the 4, one of their teammates, that he's the most likely mover to move to the top of the pack, and those 3 guys are going to lead laps and be the fastest cars on the track. If that happens, I should be fine regardless of my bottom tier guys. But those bottom tier guys are good points guys. They're solid guys. Like I said, if they can report it in 20s, we should be all good. That's just the approach I wanted to go with this week. With that said, I know we're a little bit under time as usual. But for those of you that just wanted our picks and plays for this week, good luck, best of luck. And if I'm not taking down the cash or Lear's not winning money, we really hope it's you, and we hope that we helped get you to that money somehow by at least arguing out the plays in front of you that we like, and maybe you disagree with us, but maybe something we said along the line made you swerve from a play or like a play more. Hopefully that helps you out, and hopefully you make money doing that. And worst case scenario, hopefully we're teaching you how to be better daily fantasy players, which is what FantasyDonks.com is all about, and what the Rubbin' Is Racing Daily Fantasy NASCAR show is about. We love NASCAR, we love racing, we're glad to see it a part of the DFS community, and we want to get more people and more involved and more into the sport. So help us out by liking, sharing, favoriting on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, and we'll see you guys later. For those of you guys that want to take it to the next level, we'll bring in our next segment, which is just last week's recap. Helps you guys keep us honest and see what the picks we made last week and how they panned out, whether or not we are actually information that you should listen to. And unfortunately, Lear's not here to do a lot of this rundown, so it may be dry. You're going to hear some more of me drowning on and on, but hopefully I can get you through it. We'll start off with last week's picks where we nailed it, and I'll toot my own horn here. I nailed it with Matt Kenseth. I said he was going to go 1-1, and what did the man do? He went 1-1. He was 22.8% owned, which was a little high, but that was because his cost was only $9,700. He was a must-have to take down any of the GPPs, and if you listen to me, he scored you 120 points, leading 146 laps, and having 75 of the fastest laps. Now remember, that's on a bigger track. We're here at a smaller track with literally 500 laps. That's 500 of the fastest laps, 500 laps led this week. That's why I want the cars in front, the JGR cars that are running hot, that are running fast. That's why I want those guys. I mean, those points mathematically should blow place differential out of the water when all is said and done, if you can pick the cars that are going to lead the most laps and have the fastest laps. But last week, Lear also told you to play Kevin Harvick. He started 7th, finished 2nd. Actually, if you would have listened to a combination of Lear and I, you would have taken out a GPP last week. Harvick scored 59.5 points. He led 15 laps. He had 17 of the fastest lap. He was owned 36.2%, so I was right when I said that I thought he was going to be over-owned. His cost was $10,600. You know, other than the ownership percentage, it was a great play. You would have liked to see a little bit more points out of him, but you'll take it. 59 is great. Lear also recommended Kyle Larson last week. Started 34th, finished 13th. He scored 52.5 points. As Lear said in the show, he'll be a top 15 finish, and it happened. I said it was going to be a bold move that was going to happen, and Lear was right, and he became the best value play statistically of the week last week. But he was owned 34.7%, and you know that ownership percentage is getting up there. Anytime you cross over the 25% mark, I start to worry about ownership percentages. But Lear made a great call there, and had you listened to him, you would have got some great points. My other pick last week was Denny Hamlin. He was a little disappointing. He started second, finished fifth, but he still put up 38.5 points. He was 26% owned. He was only 8,400. The play panned out. I mean, he wouldn't have killed your lineup. It wasn't going to harm you at all. It wasn't as great as we wanted, but I'll take it. Lear's other pick for you last week was Ryan Newman. He started 17th, finished 8th, scoring 45.5 points. He was owned 35% of the time. His cost was only 7,100, making him a great value play. He was a must-have for you to finish super high in the GPPs. And the winning lineup actually had him. So on the going to the garage plays last week, I told you to fade Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch started 6th, finished 11th. He scored 31 points. He had 10 laps led, and one of the fastest laps. He was owned 22%, but at the 10,100 price tag, he definitely did not return value for you. So that was my whole argument. It wasn't that I didn't like Kyle Busch. It was that I didn't think he could return value for you on that track, and he did not. And my reasoning was a little flawed, as he didn't spin out in turn 4 like he always does, but he still fell back and didn't cost you points like I thought he would, but he didn't meet value, so technically I was right. I'll give myself props on a easy out there. Lear's go to the garage was the Biff last week with Greg Biffle. He started 20th, finished 23rd, ended up with a whopping 18 fantasy points. He was 7,100, owned 21.6% of the time. I mean, excuse me, wasn't a play that would terribly kill you at that price, but Lear was right, he wasn't good, so avoid him. With that said, that was last week's recap. Sorry to get all close on you like that. That was last week's recap. We hit some good drivers last week. Hopefully we're hitting the good drivers again this week, as we all went, as Lear and I both went JGR, and without knowing who each other picked, we picked all 4 JGR drivers without overlapping. Hilarious in my opinion, but my recommendation is stick JGR all the way. It might be the favorite, but that's where you got to go on this track. And I don't think a lot of people are going to have the stones to line up all 4 of them, or even 3 of the 4 of them, and go value behind them. So don't be afraid to do that. Best of luck to you. Hopefully we win some money this week. And I also wanted to give a shout out to a special viewer, Adrian Woodruff. Thanks for participating, bro. Thanks for engaging. You and the others like you are exactly why we do this show. We just love having people respond and be a part of our show and a part of NASCAR and Daily Fantasy. So thank you, Adrian. Keep it up. Good luck to you, sir. Hopefully you win some money this week using our recommendations or using the information we give you. Have a great one, guys, and peace out.